The other day, we heard about protesters in Seattle who had been blocking an interstate highway when a car crashed into them, hitting two people, putting one in critical condition and one in serious condition. We have many updates. The first is that the woman in critical condition has actually died. So this is rather sad. The other woman is still in serious condition. They've arrested a man by the name of DeWitt Colette, who hit these women. He has been charged with vehicular assault and I believe no bail. So he's been apprehended. Now, there's a few things we'll clear up. But the other part of the story after this, I want to talk about, we've got several high profile Black Lives Matter, or I shouldn't say necessarily high profile, but organizers of Black Lives Matter are quitting. They're quitting because the movement's being hijacked, and that's their words, not mine. Far left organizations that want Marxism and to abolish police have taken over. The brand has just been given straight to the intersectionalists, and actual activists are quitting. It's been hijacked. And now these two ideas do come together because I want to make a point about what we're seeing here. When this hit happened, what did the left say? They said it was intentional. They said the driver illegally entered the ramp, sped towards them, and hit him on purpose. They said it was a far right attack, that they were targeted by a right wing extremist. It turns out this guy DeWitt is black. Some people have said he's Somalian. Some have said he's Eritrean. I'm not entirely sure. But he lives in Seattle. He has an address there. And he works at DoorDash. Seems like he's a regular guy. They don't know how he got on the highway because apparently the police blocked it off. They don't know. That's it. Straight up. We don't know. We don't know. However, the police suspect he may have entered through an exit ramp, in which case maybe the guy was really dumb and made a mistake. But I got to make one thing clear for you, and then we'll read this and we'll talk about what's going on with the hijacking of this movement. Listen, I'm sad whenever someone loses their life. As most of you know, I oppose the death penalty. And I don't want to, this should not make anyone happy. You know, the loss of life is a tragic thing. But my sympathy only goes so far. Listen, you can see right here in this photo. What do we see? It's a curve. That's right. Far left ideologues, intersectionalists, whatever you want to call them. At night, wearing all black, on a highway, around a curve, set up two vehicles, and then were shocked when a car hit people. And of course, they then tried blaming far-right extremists. I gotta say, when you add all those things together, you mean to tell me that this was an accident, right? Look. It sounds like these people are as dumb as a box of rocks, and that might be offensive to rocks. Let me make it clear for you again. Highway, around a curve, obstructions in the road, no lights, at night, wearing all black. Come on, man. What did you think was going to happen? Now, I understand they thought the highway would be shut down. So what were they protesting anyway? You see the point? Apparently, they've been blocking the highway for 19 days. The state troopers have shut it down. So what were they doing? Eventually, this is going to happen. And it really does seem like all the ingredients were mixed perfectly into this. And then they tried exploiting it, saying it was a white supremacist or whatever that hit them. No, it wasn't. Well, here's the news. The Wall Street Journal reports a 24-year-old woman died Saturday of her injuries after she and another woman were hit by a car on a closed highway in Seattle while protesting against police brutality. Summer Taylor of Seattle died in the evening in Harborview Medical Center, spokeswoman Susan Gregg said. Miss Taylor and Diaz Love, 32 of Portland, Oregon, were hit by the car that barreled through a panicked crowd of protesters on Interstate 5 early Saturday morning. DeWitt Colette of Seattle drove the car around the vehicles that were blocking I-5 and sped into the crowd around about 1:40 a.m., according to the police report. But let's be fair, man. First of all, they tried claiming this guy was a hit and run. He didn't. This guy actually stopped and they went up and started attacking his car, and then he drove further up. He didn't try running at all. Think about this. You're on a highway. You're coming around a curve. All of a sudden, before you realize it, because it's at night and there's no lights, there's two vehicles in the middle of the road. What do? This guy swerved out of the way. When he swerved onto the shoulder, a ton of people were standing there. So what did he do? He swerved to the left. Pop, pop. And he hit two people, sending them flying, one of which is now dead. I can't believe they're charging this guy for this. Vehicular assault? Because he got on the wrong highway ramp or whatever. They don't even know how he got on the highway. Maybe it's the police's fault and this guy had no idea what was going on. They put up a sign saying protesters on the highway, back off. At what point are these people responsible for it? Listen, man, am I going to blame this guy because he was driving his car on the highway? That's ridiculous. If anything, the protesters should be held to some degree criminally liable for blocking a highway. It's a crime. Why aren't they getting in trouble? I tell you what, I laid it out for you, but I'm going to say it one more time. At night, around a curve, no lights, wearing all black, blocking the road so no one could see. If you went and drank bleach, I'm sorry. I would be sad when you died, but I would not be. You don't expect me to change laws, to go and rally because you chose to do something that was very obviously going to get you killed. There's a meme going around of a bunch of activists doing like a prayer circle or something on train tracks. Yes. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think, I mean, the crazy thing is when people started yelling car, they were just like running around randomly. Like, man, I tell you what, this was bound to happen. And I blame the police to an extent, but also it's just the protesters' fault. Now, the reason I blame the police is because they are letting this happen. They could have just come out and arrested everybody. Why won't they? Why won't they say, hey, blocking a highway is a crime? Miss Love is in serious condition. She was filming, and this is crazy. There's actually video of this. There is video of the moment they get hit by the car. It's really nuts. They say the driver, who was alone, fled the scene. Not true at all. Not true at all. The guy hit them, and then he pulls forward a little ways up. Then there's video emerging of them running up to his car and hitting it and trying to pop the doors open. So he moves up again. And I think that's why he wasn't charged with hit and run. He was charged with vehicular assault. And now that I don't understand. They say Mr. Colette was described by officers as reserved and sullen when he was arrested, according to court documents. He was booked into King County Correctional Facility on Saturday morning on 2 counts of vehicular assault. Bail was denied. A judge found probable cause to hold Mr. Colette on an investigation of vehicular assault. He faces a second court hearing on Monday, at which the judge will determine whether he can be released on bail, according to court documents. It wasn't immediately clear if Mr. Colette had an attorney who could speak on his behalf. I have the videos, okay? I have the videos. I got to say, man, I don't think this guy should be in jail. I really don't. If he got on the highway the wrong way, it sounds like he was just being stupid. Just a dumb mistake. Now, you can argue that if you cause someone to lose life, ignorance is no excuse for committing a crime. But highways are for cars. How was he supposed to know a bunch of people would be around a bend wearing all black? He probably couldn't even see him. How was he supposed to know that? So I don't think it's fair to blame him when the police did not get these people off the highway. So here's what we know about the guy. They say, we have an update here. The woman has died. It's DeWitt Colette. So here's some photos of the guy. He's clearly not a white guy. It's not a white supremacist or anything like that. Interesting, however, Ian Miles Chong said earlier, the Seattle I-5 driver in the white Jaguar stopped about a half mile from the scene where he hit the protesters. They caught up with the car and started attacking the vehicle, so he drove off and waited for police further down the road. They didn't have to chase after him. He was waiting right there for him. In this video, I'm not going to play it because this is YouTube, but you can see them run to the car and try popping the door and try breaking in. What was he supposed to do? What would you do? After we've seen these far leftists shoot drivers, what would you do? Probably the same thing. So he didn't flee the scene. He waited. I wonder if he called the police even. So that's the gist of it, right? They're trying to claim this guy is a white supremacist, but lo and behold, the people who are staging this protest were white people for the most part. Now, there were black people down there for sure. And I have to stress one more important point. When this happened, do you know what the first thing these people started screaming was? After the car hit these people, what was the first thing? They started yelling. They started yelling, help, call the police, call 911. And who was the first person to come and help? The police. A police officer rushed onto the scene knowing full well these people hate him and are protesting against him and want him to lose his job. And he ran out onto a highway to try and save some people. Yeah, because that's what cops do. Because of the extremism, because of the far left, we're now seeing people quit. Check out these stories. Actress behind BLM protest in Whitehall disowns Marxist Black Lives Matter, saying it's a separate group hijacked by far left activists who want to tear down capitalism and abolish the police. Imarn Ayton said that she was behind 2 Black Lives Matter protests in London. The actress believes the BLM movement has been hijacked by far-left activists. She claims BLM UK, a campaign group, is now at the forefront of the movement. Miss Ayton, 29, said the group used a skillful social media campaign to do this. She's not the only one. Over in Minneapolis, the movement has been hijacked. A Black Lives Matter leader quits over public school platform. There's a variety of reasons why they're quitting. This guy, let me read you this first one because the other woman talks about how they did it. A Black Lives Matter leader in the city of St. Paul who has been deeply involved in both school equity fights and protests over police shootings has announced that he is stepping down because of the national group's recent call for a moratorium on charter schools. Rashad Anthony Turner, a prominent voice in the debate over racial disparities and the outcomes of Minnesota schools, said his desire to continue to push for equity in education put him at odds with BLM's leadership. Quote, "For me, it was a question of integrity," Turner explained, saying Black Lives Matter had been hijacked, being that I am all for charter schools and education reform. And as someone who is seeking educational justice for students and families, I could no longer be under the banner of Black Lives Matter. Stepping outside of that banner personally meant that I needed to step down from a leadership role and any affiliation with Black Lives Matter if I'm going to do a great job in education and fighting for educational justice. Yeah, I tell you what, imagine this guy. Imagine this. Imagine you are fighting for a better education system because we can all agree it's messed up, really messed up. Be it a conservative or a Black Lives Matter activist, a real one, we can see there's problems with our schools. Imagine now that everything you're fighting for is overshadowed by a bunch of white people running around on a freeway getting hit by cars. And you're going to be like, well, what? What are they doing? They make you look really dumb and crazy. For the longest time, what we refer to, these far left people, intersectionalism, social justice warriors, not Black Lives Matter. So when did Black Lives Matter become the official brand of the intersectional left? They hijacked it. They absolutely did. And they changed what Black Lives Matter was originally about. Police reform. Yeah. When these original protests started, it had nothing to do with white privilege. And you can see where there's a kind of overlap where the far left was able to exploit this, a racial tension. They said, there's our opportunity to inject our freaky Marxist intersectionalism or whatever. Check this out. In an outspoken attack, Imran Ayton, 29, also voiced fears that people may have donated towards a high-profile online fundraising campaign without realizing that those behind it want to tear down capitalism and abolish the police. Miss Ayton, an activist and actress, said she organized the Black Lives Matter rally in London's Parliament Square on June 6 and a peaceful protest in Hyde Park. She claimed the Black Lives Matter UK, the campaign group behind the fundraising campaign, had not been involved in organizing the demonstrations. A lot of people assume they were the driving force behind the protest when in actual fact, they just support the protests. The BLM movement is a separate entity to BLM UK. I have no contact with BLM UK, and they have not been on the ground once. The issue with BLM UK is they have not revealed themselves. They have not been transparent. They are abolitionists. They believe in the removal of prisons, smashing capitalism, and abolishing the police. BLM UK was formed in 2016 but rose to prominence this year after the death of George Floyd. A crowdfunding campaign launched attracted donations of over £1 million. Meanwhile, the Mail on Sunday has learned the GoFundMe remains control of BLM UK's fund while it checks on where the money will go. No funds will have been withdrawn, etc. Ms. Ayton said BLM UK had used a skillful social media campaign and taken advantage of a leadership vacuum among other groups to position itself at the forefront of the BLM campaign. The same thing happening in the US. They have hijacked taking credit for this movement. In terms of this movement, they did not organize. They did not lead it. They were not involved in the 20,000 people on the streets. She added, I am just mortified because everyone has given money and they are not going to use that to better the black community. They are going to use it to abolish the police, remove prisons, and get rid of capitalism. Well, using money to get rid of capitalism, I find kind of funny. Why on earth would you donate $1 million to people that are not actually doing anything for the black community here and now? Miss Ayton of Peckham, South London, said she was building an alternative black reformist movement that will call on the government to implement the findings of a series of reviews on ethnic injustices. Her rally on June 20th was criticized by BLM UK, which posted on Instagram that protests were being hijacked by reformists, adding, remember, All skin folk are not kinfolk. Wow, man. Wow. Overt racism. And you know what? I think she's the legit one. Over in the US, we have this weird thing happening where back in like 2014, a guy started a foundation called the Black Lives Matter Foundation around the time the term emerged. There was no organization, there was no nonprofit, so he started one. He's been collecting donations ever since, and his goal is reform, just like hers. He wants to use the donations to create community events so that police can come together with the people. We can, meet each other, learn, who everybody is. And hopefully that will bring everyone together and help reduce some of these problems. A very clever move. I think it's great. But he's not a very big organization, this guy who runs it. Black Lives Matter now is running under something, I think it's called Thousand Currents. And they're accepting donations. Because they have allies in media, stories started to emerge claiming that the original Black Lives Matter Foundation was actually not the real Black Lives Matter. That's right. Because the real Black Lives Matter is a front for intersectionalism. It has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. That's the reality. Now, I got to be fair. Unfortunately, as we see these people step down, the reality becomes clear. Black Lives Matter is now social justice Marxism, intersectionalism. You can fight against it. You can say it's not fair. It's not true. They hijacked it. They did. And they won because they have allies at major corporations and in the media that will prop up their views and their ideas. So if you want to come out like Dave Chappelle did and say, hey, why are people getting shot? The intersectionalists saw that and said, this aligns a little bit with some of what we're saying. So we can hijack Dave Chappelle and turn his speech into a plea for our religion. And it worked. It was very clever. You now have people viewing what Dave Chappelle was saying as part of the same weird Marxist nonsense. But nothing that Dave Chappelle said had anything to do with any Marxists taxes, white privilege, or anything like that. He was talking just about police brutality and people in the black community being subjected to police brutality. Whether or not it's as prevalent as people believe, I'm not going to argue. I'm going to say, I hear you, Dave. Big fan. I think he's anti-PC. I think he doesn't agree with this stuff. If you actually listen to his comedy, he's a funny and offensive guy. But he has concerns about people's civil liberties and civil rights being violated. I'm down. I am down to join that fight and say, yes, everybody deserves their civil liberties and civil rights. But they've hijacked this. They can now use him and claim he supports their movement, right? Because he spoke up about it. By wrapping this under their umbrella, now they can do nonsensical and insane things. And they can put pressure and steal on government. They can steal donations and they can trick a bunch of dumb young people to going out and supporting intersectionalism, a religion. I'm saying it is a religion for a reason. You've heard me say it quite a bit. It is. It is called a non-theistic religion. It's not a cult because they don't have, there's a lot of arguments about what a cult is and why it's different. But I tell you this, there is an overlap between, the current iteration of intersectionalism, which is now being branded Black Lives Matter, unfortunately for the actual Black Lives Matter activists. But they use violence for compliance. They have preachers. They have original sin. They have people sitting in a park with their hands up, chanting to each other. Have you seen the video? I am not exaggerating. I've been to church. I know what religion looks like. Now, this is a bit more, it's substantially worse. Like, look, I've been to church, man. But even when I've been to church, it was not this crazy. And that's been a long time since I've been to church. But they definitely overlap, 100%. Intersectionalism is a religion. I don't know why, what their goal is, but they do not believe in the Enlightenment. They do not believe in individualism. They do not believe in civil rights. They are lying to you. And that's why, you know what? Let me show you this. Let me show you this tweet. This guy, James O'Brien, said there's no actual culture war, is there? It's just a new way of describing disagreements between people who hate racism and discrimination and people who love it. Meanwhile, woke has just replaced politically correct as the most pretentious way of saying not a massive bigot. A white rioter blamed a black man for giving her Molotov cocktail supplies when questioned by the police. And then the cops found out she was protecting her white friend. It's not about racism. It's about ideology. So yeah, it's a culture war. It's not a race war, but it could become one. It's a culture war. This white rioter who was trying to destroy a police vehicle with a Molotov, when questioned by the police, didn't just admit it, didn't keep her mouth shut. She openly volunteered a description of black men who gave her these supplies. And what would then happen? the cops would go out, find a man who matches that description, and arrest him, right? Oh, he was in the area at the time. He has the proper, he fits the description. Here's the guy. And she probably would have been like, yep, that's him. Racism, nothing to do with it. The reality is these people aren't paying attention. Like that one guy, I'm not going to say his name. He was like, why is Donald Trump talking about statues being torn down? Is somebody trying to tear down Washington and Jefferson and I didn't hear about this? Yeah, you moron. These people have no idea what's going on at all. I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers. And I'm not going to pretend like I've seen everything. Here's the way I describe it to people. There's a large room. It's got many doors. And we're all crouched down at one of the doors looking through a keyhole. We can see only one portion of that room, and everyone's looking in different directions. So no, not everyone has the answers, and everybody has a different view of things. However, I try to do my best to ask all of the people standing around the building what they see. That's how I do what I do. I follow left-wing people, right-wing people. I go to the Donald.win, the prominent Trump forum. I go to, the anarchist subreddits, the social justice subreddits, and I see what they're saying as well, because they're all looking into this room, right? From a different perspective. I want to see what they have to say. In fact, it's interesting. You'll find that oftentimes they overlap in really stupid ways. Epstein, for instance. They're all saying the exact same things, but pointing the finger at each other. How dumb. Listen, I don't know what we can expect moving forward with intersectionalism and Black Lives Matter, but I can tell you, if black leaders keep calling this out and stepping down, you know what you're going to be left with? You're going to be left with overtly white people running the show. You're going to be left with people who are almost entirely, perceivably, and by document, white, but claim to be black. Like, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say his name. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get a large group of white people walking around on highways, getting hit by cars. And then guess who gets arrested for it? A black dude. You're going to end up with a bunch of white security guards in the Chaz in Seattle firing 300 rounds into an SUV driven by a 16-year-old unarmed black kid. And they will kill him. That's what they did. How is this Black Lives Matter when the Black Lives Matter organizers are quitting and it's white people who are taking over? It's not. They're manipulating it. They're hijacking it. So there you go, man. But stick around. The next segment will be coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.